You're listening to Season 3 of Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast. I'm Kimberly Evans, and I've been planning events, workshops, retreats, and socials for almost 20 years. After working with so many incredible clients and entrepreneurs, and personally experiencing hardship in life and business, I've discovered how powerful our mindset and purpose is in creating a life of joy and celebration while having a whole lot of fun along the way. Join me with a coffee or cocktail as I connect with inspiring leaders, entrepreneurs, tastemakers, and extraordinary people as they share their journey in life and business and how they are striving to live a life of purpose. Your fears and beliefs in yourself will be transformed as you work towards creating the best version of yourself from the inside out. You're in good company. Cheers to celebrating simple life. Today on Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast, I am chatting with Melanie Samuels. Melanie is a holistic nutritionist and wellness enthusiast based in Los Angeles, California. I had the pleasure of meeting Melanie on the set of Fuller House back in 2016 when we were there on Cassidy's Wish trip. Her and I instantly connected and have now reconnected as she moved out of television production in the last few years and is now the owner of Choose Well with Mel. This company grew out of Melanie's fascination for health, nutrition, and living a confident life. Using a bio-individual and sustainable approach, Melanie helps clients improve their health by ditching the diet and embracing their intuition around food. This includes developing realistic habits and a deep understanding of the importance of choosing the right foods for your body. Melanie pivoted her career to nutrition after years of working in television production, where she met a few of her current clients, including Jodie Sweetin from Fuller House. In addition to her one-on-one work, she has also developed nutrition courses and mini trainings. Melanie is also the co-founder of Mel and Mel Co, a wellness and lifestyle brand she started with her business partner, client, and dear friend, Melissa Coulier. They are currently in the development of their first wellness book, as well as other lifestyle products. Outside of work, she loves being a wife, cooking and creating healthy recipes in her kitchen, moving her body, spending time with friends, being creative, and watching guilty pleasure reality TV. You are going to love Mel's approach to lifestyle, living well, and nutrition, so tune in. Hello, Mel. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is so fun. I think I start every single episode with this now because I just think that the one beautiful thing that has come out of a pandemic is that it has just opened the world up to connecting even more on technology, which sometimes gets a bad rap, but it's just been so cool to connect. And now I get to be in Canada and you get to be in California and we're just doing our thing.
Totally. This feels oddly normal.
Oh, isn't that true? So I first wanted to just address how you and I know each other, because this is such a funny story. And I feel like it's just such a beautiful way of how the world kind of just comes back around when you least expect it. So you and I actually met on the cast of Fuller House.
On the set, yeah. How crazy.
Yes. So we are there. I'm speaking of it like as if I'm just on the set on a normal day. No. So Cassidy received her children's wish. And we can talk about all these things now because sadly Fuller House is done and we're all hoping that there will be some sort of reunion renewal, but we'll look forward to that in the future.
Right.
But yeah, we're there on the set and experiencing the incredible Wish Day, and you happen to be on set because that is where you work. And so we had the pleasure of meeting each other.
Yeah, it was such a special evening. One of my fondest memories of working on the show.
Oh, come on. Honestly, like, I don't think a week has gone by. This is like August 2016 that we are there. So yeah. We're years out now, and Cassidy and Lucia were so little. When we look back to the pictures, they've just grown up so much. But yeah, that honestly, there's not a week that goes by that we don't have a discussion about this in our household, because there was just so many, it was already like an anticipated day, but then there were so many little details that happened throughout our experience on the set and watching it being recorded and getting to go down onto the set and just having such beautiful conversations with so many of the cast. And it just, was out of this world, something we will never, ever, ever forget. So I love that now this has come back around, because
4 years, you're making huge pivots here. We are now no longer in television producing. We're now in nutrition and health and wellness.
Yeah, I know. What a change.
Right? So I would love to hear, first of all, I think one of the things that my listeners, I get questions on this all the time. When you're trying to pivot and you're changing, especially you were picking to like television producing, health, wellness, nutrition, like those are kind of very different ends of the spectrum when it comes to career and choices, and even being an entrepreneur versus not being an entrepreneur. Like those are big decisions for everyone to make. And I think a lot of times you get ideas in your head and sort of just blow them off thinking, oh, there's no way that could be possible. I couldn't possibly switch what I'm doing now and going into something else, but you're living proof that it's possible. And I would love to hear how this light bulb came to you about switching.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said it exactly. It's starting to have that feeling and then doing something about it as opposed to just kind of shoving it in the back of your mind. So I had always wanted to be in television production since I was a kid. And I think we're taught, naturally to choose something that you want to do. What do you want to be when you grow up? And then you do that. And anything else, any pivot or anything like that is a sign of not failure, but not completing the job. So first of all, it's really hard to get out of that mentality that I think so many of us relate to. And I loved my job in TV production. I met some of my best friends in the entire world. I met my husband that way. I was able to, really live my dream in a sense. But at the same time, a job like that requires you to give everything to it. And I was working, 12 or 14-hour days, as you witnessed. And
we got to experience one of your 12-hour days. Yes.
Exactly. And one of my best ones. So we're all not like that, of course, like any job. But I started kind of thinking about what I wanted in life. And when I looked at my future, I wasn't ready to give everything to my career. I really looked for something that gave me flexibility with my personal life. My family has always been a priority. And in addition to that, my health. And when I was working like those kinds of hours, I felt that my health sort of took the back burner. And that I knew was always a priority for me. And that wasn't something I was able to give my attention to. So it was hard to just balance everything. And I also felt like I needed to make more of an impact on the world. And I know that seems cliche, and working in TV is impactful because you're providing entertainment and an escape for people, and changing lives, especially with a show like Fuller House. But at the same time, I kind of just wanted my own path for that. So long story short, I had struggled with disordered eating in high school as a teenager. And that sort of evolved into a fascination for nutrition, and specifically how we can feel good in our bodies in a healthy way, a way that's not destructive, in a way that's not, a mental stress. So I found myself in my free time, like researching nutrition studies and starting to tap into that sort of realm. And it kind of clicked that I thought that's my purpose. I really feel like I want to help people make nutrition a priority amidst a busy schedule, or somebody who wants to heal their relationship with food. And so I just kind of had this idea, which is I'm very type A. So any drastic decision like this, it was it wasn't me, but I had a gut feeling that it was the right thing to do. My passion was kind of calling, and I just did it. I didn't tell many people because I was concerned that any sort of judgment or negativity would interfere with what I knew was right. So I left. It was the hardest decision ever.
Wow. So was there a natural conclusion to did you just naturally wait till Fuller House was done, or did you have other other opportunities in between, or were you kind of doing this and that on the side to try to figure it out? How did you finally just be like, okay, we're moving from one thing to another?
Yeah, so it was season 4. There were 5. I always get this confused. It was the end of season 4, and it was, I'm sorry, 3. There were 4, right?
Yeah, we were there for season 2 in 2016.
Okay.
That was what we saw. Yeah.
Got it. So this is the end of season 3, and in freelance television, you typically, if you want to stay with a show for subsequent seasons, the schedule sort of works out, but it's never implied. So there is sort of like a formal, do you want to come back for the next season? So at the end of season 3, I told a few people on the show that I was very close with about this decision, the ones that I knew would support it,
Yes.
And so I did that, and that was incredibly emotional. And then it was a good time to leave, because the next season would have a fresh start, and it was hard not being there. But I also I was back in school, and I was studying and doing what I love. Just so yeah, there really wasn't any overlapping.
Wow, good for you. You just ripped the Band-Aid and went for it.
Yeah, totally.
Good girl. Well, so then how, as you went back to school and were like, I guess even deciding, because with obviously health, nutrition, wellness, that's a broad term of what types of things you can get into with this. How did you decide that becoming more of a therapy practitioner was more of the direction that you wanted to go, and even being self-employed and doing your own business versus just finding something in that industry that you wanted to go into? What made you kind of choose this path over another?
Yeah, I would always be looking at sort of holistic health when I was researching types of educations and studies and things like that. And holistic health has always really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not somebody who believes there's a magic pill or a quick fix or anything like that. So I always was fascinated with the idea of bringing your body back to balance through all aspects of your life, not just the supplements you're taking or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that might be. So I found the school that I went to is called the Nutritional Therapy Association, and they are a holistic health practice education, and that just really spoke to me, as opposed to getting like a formal medical degree or something like that. It just felt the ideals of holistic health just really resonated with me. So I decided that was the path. And I talked to a lot of health and wellness professionals and kind of picked their brains and interviewed a lot of people before I made that choice. But it ended up being the right thing for me.
The right thing. Well, just after reconnecting with you and then being looking on your Instagram and just seeing your website, and then you have out, it just feels like such a natural fit, especially me being someone who knew you in your previous career as well. And now looking at this, it just looks so natural. It just seems like such a fit for what you're doing. And I just love how you're just bringing a realness to talking about it, especially sharing your own story of, battling with disordered eating, and just bringing that in as a mom with daughters. That's just such an important, it's just such an important topic that I feel like the more people are talking about something like this, the more it just kind of takes any type of stigma away from it. And it just feels empowering to know that we actually have the ability to make big changes in our lives by working on the holistic approach. I love that, the mindset and everything. So, how do we, as women, I guess, I feel like, maybe this is stereotypical, but I feel like this definitely, at least what I see and hear from people that I talk to, it feels like more women struggle with this conversation than men, but obviously it goes to everybody. But I would imagine your audience is maybe more female with whom you work with, which is mine as well, in my event planning career. And I feel like women is just who I'm always speaking to. And I just feel like, how do we as women change our mindset and actually implement things in our life without it feeling, I feel like there's always, especially when it comes to health and nutrition, it's easy to get into the mindset of it just being all or nothing. I have to do this, and this, or else I'm not doing it right, or else what about this? And our brains are like, ooh, smoke coming out of the top. And then you're just like, screw it. We're just doing nothing.
Totally. What's the line from Mean Girls? She's like, screw it, I'm just getting cheese fries. Like that's everything, right?
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. I think, that's exactly it. It's overwhelming. And people ask me a lot, like, how do you not get overwhelmed with everything that's being said about nutrition? You should do this, you should do that. And I think the first thing that people should do is start to kind of shift their mentality to making it about how you feel versus how you want to look. It's really easy for us to, in our minds, when we think, how do you want your health to look visually? You just picture, the body or something that you want to emulate, a person you want to emulate. But really, nobody talks about your energy levels or how well you're sleeping or what you're able to bring to your relationships. If you start sort of thinking about how you want to feel versus how you want to look, it all makes so much more sense. Maybe it's somebody who is getting tired every afternoon and is relying on cups of coffee at 3 p.m. But when you start making healthier changes and then have steady energy throughout the day, that becomes so much more valuable than something that you can put a number or a size to. So starting to sort of think about how you want to feel versus how you want to look. And when you focus on the feeling and do, your healthy habits to get there, how you look sometimes is just a perk of that. So I think that's one thing. And then I think another thing is to stop playing the game of comparison. And it's so easy for us all to do. We all have a friend who tried a diet and it worked wonders for her, but there's a reason that it didn't work wonders for you. And that's because of an idea called bioindividuality, which is one of the biggest things that I love about holistic nutrition, which it looks at every single person as an individual. And, we all have different biological makeups, and we all have different genetics and lifestyle circumstances and stress levels and all of these things that make what we each need to put into our bodies very different. And, the game of comparison is also really stressful for our minds because, again, if you are trying something that someone else tried and didn't work for you, you sort of feel like you failed. But
Totally.
That's just not the case.
Well, and I love that you said to just even about like when you're normally comparing yourself and looking at it from a physical perspective. So you see somebody on Instagram or you see a celebrity or you see whatever it is that someone decides to mimic. You're absolutely right. We never actually get to see the other side of that. So we're looking at something that we're just looking at the physical side. They might be miserable. They might be absolutely miserable. And most of the time, those aren't the things. And I feel like that's something that I'm in a constant state of just wanting to blow out of the water is this idea that we can't just say how we're really feeling. Like, I feel like garbage today or whatever, like whatever you feel like is just the way that it is. And we're not usually fooling anybody because most of the time, there's other signs or other things that are coming out that kind of are showing maybe more honesty in a situation. And I think it's so refreshing to hear this perspective. And I love that it's sort of more, and I guess with the holistic approach, then it's kind of, the whole point is to be more in tune with how your body is feeling. And so just throwing that other stuff out and saying, that's all that really matters. And it's okay. I would rather be happy and be 10 sizes bigger if that's how I was feeling, happy and my absolute best, than thinking that I had to lose 50 pounds and be miserable, but that was somehow equivalent to happiness. I don't know.
100%. Absolutely. And I mean, we all want to feel good in our pair of jeans, but there's a way to feel good and not obsess about it. And, have the self-confidence by, like you said, maybe being your natural size and not something that's unrealistic that you are making extreme decisions for.
Totally.
And like you had said, with the all or nothing approach, the more that we do the work, meaning the healthiest habits and treating our bodies with respect and nourishing it to the best of our abilities, 80% of the time, that 20% of the time is flexible, and you can indulge in your favorite piece of cake and not beat yourself up about it.
Totally. Well, we have a rule in our household with my daughters, because I'm just always wanting this to be a very healthy environment of conversation. There is no wrong thing to say. It's just the way that it is. But we have this conversation on a regular basis of, if you're going to eat something, you're going to enjoy it. So whether it's like the quote unquote right healthy thing to eat, or maybe making a choice of, oh yeah, I really want that right now, I'm going to eat this. If you're going to feel guilty and eat your cake and be like, I shouldn't be eating this, I'm like, then don't eat it, because that's no fun.
Exactly. You're right. And I love that that's an open conversation in your house. I always tell my clients, if you're going to eat something, you should feel good about it before, during, and after.
Oh,
right?
I like that.
That's, it's important, because the after is usually the guilt, the before is the indecisiveness, and the during is, kind of a combination of both of those things. But if we just turned those into like excitement, satisfaction, and then moving on at the next meal, it becomes more special and you'll digest better.
Hey, good. And there's a benefit. I love it. I love that. So what would you say are some practical strategies of actually taking this information, which I don't think anybody listening to this would say, I don't agree, there's no way this works. Like, all of us are realistic and realize that we're all trying to find this quote unquote balance that seems to potentially not exist. We're all seeking this balance in all areas of our life. And food and nutrition is such a huge part of every single day. It's just, I feel like we, at least North American society, like, we revolve our days around, like, you even say, well, I wake up at this time, it's lunch, like after dinner. We use food meal times as like our point of time reference even in a day. So I feel like it's just, and in our household, especially having a child with cystic fibrosis, they're supposed to eat 3 times the amount of calories that a person of their age and size, and whatever the normal amount of calories is, whatever that average is. So it's just a going concern around here. It's just eating all the time. And how do you take these thoughts and these things when you're having these inner battles and actually turn it into practical and start telling your brain different things in order to be able to put this into practice?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, what I'm about to say might be a little controversial, and I will say that there are exceptions to this, like, in Cassidy's case, where counting sounds like a part of her well-being, but I am not a calories girl. I am not a fan of measuring and counting and quantifying food in that way, because it tells us nothing about the nutrient density of that food. You could have 100 calories of a processed food that your body is barely going to recognize, and then 200 calories of, some nuts and fruit or something, real food ingredients that your body's going to do something totally different with. So with that said, I'm an ingredients girl. My clients are now pros at, instead of looking at the number, they look at what's actually in the food. So I think a really great strategy that people can start implementing is start to look at what makes up the food that you're eating. Is it actually food? Can you pronounce the ingredients? My rule of thumb is, if you can pronounce it, your body can pronounce it. So
that's good.
And like you said, in North America, especially, we have become this processed foods hub, and we use ingredients that, some other countries don't even allow. And I shouldn't even call them ingredients. They're chemicals and pesticides and preservatives and all of these things that are causing more damage to our bodies than we realize. So simplifying it by, instead of worrying about the numbers and counting certain things and looking at grams of certain things, to just start eating more real food. So there's, a protein bar is a really great example. If you compare sort of like a date and nut based protein bar, I'm doing air quotes in case it's audio, and something that's filled with powders and sugars and sort of things that aren't really food, you'd be amazed at the difference. So starting to just simplify it and start eating more real foods. Check out your local farmers market. Eating seasonally is a really great way to start improving your health without it feeling like a chore. And as much as possible to stay away from things that come in a package or a bag, and start sort of getting back to our ancestors. Our ancestors kind of paved the way for meals to be at the center of our days, but they definitely weren't eating things from a drive-through or from a freezer. They were making their own meals, and they also were using that time with their family and a way to connect with people. And the more that we do that with our food too, the better relationship we'll have with it.
Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast, is a proud member of the Saskatchewan Podcast Network, which is supported by Connexus. Does money spark joy in your life or cause you stress? If you said stress, you're not alone. For 42% of Canadians, their biggest stressor comes from money. At Connexus, they care about your financial well-being. Money doesn't have to be stressful, and Connexus is here to help. The Connexus Money Talk blog provides expert advice, tips, and solutions for all life stages and events. Getting married, buying a house, budgeting, saving, they cover it all and more. And did I mention it's free? Check it out today at connexusmoneytalk.ca and start feeling confident and stress-free about your money.
Well, and it just kind of comes back to the same conversation of simplicity, right? Like when we are moving at such a fast pace, there isn't room for this, or this all feels really overwhelming. And I'm sure that people are listening right now to this thinking, this all sounds great to talk about it, but listen, we live in Canada. It is cold and has been snowing here already for a while, and we are just into November, So I feel like there is some limited options sometimes based on climate and where people live. However, I feel like there have been times where our family has even sometimes taken sort of certain periods of time where we will sign up for those food box type of things, because it gives us some really cool ingredients that just aren't always available in our supermarkets because of where we live and times of year and things that, like, farmers market is a little more seasonal where we live because of just our growing climate, and everything is kind of imported then for parts of the year. So for us, that's been a bit of a helpful strategy to try new ingredients that we would maybe never even think of putting into our shopping cart because we feel daunted to learn how to prepare them. But when it comes on step-by-step instructions in all fresh, healthy things, I'm like, wow, this makes cooking so much easier.
Absolutely. And that's such a great point. There's so many great resources like that just make it easier. And that's the thing, sometimes it does require going a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but then it becomes more of a habit, and you just know your resources and you rely on them more. The other thing that you can do, especially with these cold winter months, is start sort of converting your comfort foods into healthier versions, which is something that I'm a big fan of, because I think we should be able to eat comfort food whenever we want, but there's a healthier way to do that.
I love that. Well, and I'm very excited because we are going to be baking healthy version brownies together. And I think that might be my most favorite comfort food on the face of this earth. So there was a reason why I suggested brownies. It was a little bit selfish because that is what is my favorite food. But you're right. Like, comfort food really doesn't have to be a term that means bad, right? Like, it can still be comforting.
Exactly. Absolutely.
I love that. So you share so many awesome recipes on your blog that you link on your Instagram, and they are beautiful and delicious looking. And I haven't tried every single one of them, but I'm like working my way through looking at them and figuring out what we'll eat. And I find that even when my kids are helping to prepare, we like go through phases. My kids are pretty good eaters, but go through phases of, there's even been times where Lucia, my 9-year-old, she will say, just don't tell me what's in it. Like she sometimes just, she know, because we have these conversations. So like she's very mature about it. And there's things where to verbally say, this is the ingredients listed in this recipe, she'll be like, this does not seem like something I would want to eat. Most of the time she likes it. It's more of a mind over matter type of scenario to be like, do we say that there's kale in it, or do we just have it all in there and she loves it, you know?
Totally. Ignorance is bliss.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Well, and that is the one nice part about winter and like slow cooker and soups and things that feel good when it's cold, that you can make them so healthy, but they're warm and comfortable. And you can pretty much put anything on earth into the slow cooker and it just tastes good.
Yeah,
right? It just tastes good.
100%.
I love that. So I want to chat a little bit about you have recently launched a new partnership. Are we allowed to talk about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Like I'm putting out a surprise question and we're going to get the scoop here live.
Yeah.
So Mel and Mel is your new partner in crime. Well, not new, you guys do things together, but nonetheless launching with Mel Coulier. And I would love to hear about what you guys are cooking up.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I met other Mel or Melissa.
Do you go Mel and Melissa? Is that how you guys identify each other?
We call each other Mel,
okay.
but most people, because we have a lot of mutual friends, they'll call the Mels.
The Mel, that's cute.
Hence, we had to build off of that for our company. But Melissa is a. I'll say Melissa just so that we know which Mel we're talking about. In third person. But anyway, so we obviously met on the show, and we were just instantly kind of soul sisters. So we have been developing this friendship for a long time, and then in March of this year, so right when the pandemic hit, we both found ourselves working from home and just kind of hungry for creativity. And we've always talked about business together, especially since I've pivoted. As you know, she's an incredible photographer.
Yes.
I mean, she's insanely talented, and she's also a creative consultant, which is kind of a new venture of hers. So she has all these incredible skills that I've always been so fortunate to be able to kind of pick her brain. And so we just started talking about a couple of projects, and we were like, we work really well together. So that doesn't always happen in friendship. And so we took the chance and started developing a couple things. So the first thing is we are currently in the development of a wellness and lifestyle book.
Ooh, yay!
Yeah. So she and I have been working together as nutritionist and client as well. Melissa struggles with an autoimmune disease, and she has made such incredible progress through just changing her diet, and really inspired us to talk more about how inflammation can be avoided by obviously what you eat, but also what I was alluding to earlier with, the big picture wellness, about how we speak to ourselves, about who we surround ourselves with, how we move our bodies, just approaching it from this holistic perspective. So that's what the book focuses on. And the middle section is going to be a cookbook style. So it's all recipes, which obviously I'm over the moon about, because it's been a lifelong dream of mine as well to write a cookbook. So we'll see what happens. It's written, and now we're just figuring out the next steps.
Excellent. So we'll stay tuned for launch dates, and I'll have this all linked in the show notes so that everyone listening can follow along and see where this is all going. But I love that. So I feel like when we're talking about just our general like wellness and obviously nutrition in it, I feel like there's just, we were talking about this before, there's just so much to absorb and learn. And I think that it's so easy, like we said before, to just feel like you just kind of want to throw it all out the window and just fall back into whatever routine, especially during a pandemic when we're all trapped in our houses and just not mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, all the things in between are just feeling like the dice are just rolling and nobody knows what's happening next. At least that's how we've been feeling. I won't speak for everybody, but that's how it's been feeling around here. And that's the general consensus I'm getting from most people that I talk to, that how do, amidst all of that, amidst all of those things, which just feel so hard and like there's so much to process and it's fatiguing and you just aren't feeling like yourself. Therefore, I deserve to just eat chips. I deserve to go under my child's bed and dig into their Halloween candy stash that's left in there because I deserve it and I'm sad, so I'm going to eat my feelings. How do we like actually take this and say, okay, today, tomorrow is a new day, each day, not, wow, well, I started eating chocolate bars for breakfast, so I better just continue it on with lunch and dinner.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say that sometimes there is a time and place for that. I'm going to be completely honest. Like I have had that moment probably in the last week just because of what's happening in the world. So allowing ourselves that for the moment and not feeling bad about it, but not staying in it is the key there.
Mm-hmm.
What I tell my clients is moving on, not on Monday, but on at the next meal. You know, just because you do get into your kids' Halloween candy right before dinner doesn't mean you have to follow it up with pizza and ice cream and all of the things. And then the next day, well, might as well just have pancakes or whatever that looks like for you. And we've all been there. We feel sort of trapped in this vicious cycle of I messed up, so I might as well just continue to spiral and mess up because what's life? What does it matter?
Right.
But we actually have the ability to change things up immediately. I think that's how we sort of start approaching a balanced life. So if you do have an indulgent pancake breakfast, you can have a piece of salmon and some veggies for lunch, and then you're back on track instead of just thinking of it as this vicious cycle, if I can talk.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's a big thing. And instead of starting over every Monday, just thinking of it as a time to move on, because that's the problem with this vicious cycle loop that we are all in, is that you never feel like you're out of it. But if you indulge and it's a choice and you enjoy it, and then you just move right back on, you're continuing more to your destination and not making a U-turn.
Right. Well, and stopping, I feel like my mindset has shifted a lot about this, even over the last couple of years, I would say, where I always was in this all or nothing kind of mentality, where I always looked at my days in a 24-hour period rather than what you just said, which is such a great practical strategy of it just being choice by choice. It's not about it being the fact that this is the same day that I already ate this and that I already ate this and that yesterday I did this. It's just right now, right here. Am I feeling like this is what I need right now? Or is maybe another choice something that would maybe serve my body better right now in this moment, not later tonight or tomorrow, and thinking ahead and trying to always be so, I don't know.
Yeah,
thinking
absolutely.
about it.
Totally. And going back to, what I said earlier about how you want to feel, that's another thing, because we get in these traps where we do let food sort of control us, and thinking about what you had for that last meal, all of a sudden dictating what you're going to have for the next meal doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but it's how our brains sort of naturally work. And we do have control, and especially when we know what's going to make us feel good, that's where it starts to kind of shift. And the other thing I was going to say is setting ourselves up, you know, you mentioned all or nothing, but setting ourselves up for success as opposed to failure by just choosing one small thing to start with. Instead of saying, I'm going to eliminate A, B, and C for the next 2 months, what if you just chose one thing? Or what if you just chose to drink more water? Small steps are honestly the secret, because that means you're going to be able to actually commit to that and follow through.
Right. Well, and that is a benefit too. Like, I feel you're absolutely right. I feel like sometimes those little things, it's easy for us to just say, well, yeah, sure, I've been drinking more water every day than I did last week, but that doesn't really matter. You know, like celebrating the fact that, okay, great, I'm actually hydrated this week. That's a really good thing.
Yeah, exactly. Most of us are dehydrated and we don't even realize it. So that's a huge thing if someone's able to do that.
I love that. Well, it was funny because with Halloween happening recently, obviously never ever, except for this time of year, is there as many treats. And my children did not even go trick-or-treating this year because of the whole pandemic, but just with friends and neighbors. And I mean, we got them like some little treats because we feel sad for them that they're not going trick-or-treating and trying to like make it fun. So they have heaps and heaps of stuff going on. And their dad says to them the next day after Halloween, he sees it all piled onto the tables. And I look at them and I'm like, you best put that away, because your dad is like ready to just get it all into the garbage so that he doesn't start going to town on it. So within like 30 minutes, I come back up and there is not a speck of candy to be found. And I have no idea where they stored it, but it is in heaps in their room somewhere.
Oh my gosh. Out of sight, out of mind, you know?
Yeah. So we're just leaving it there and just going to pretend that it doesn't exist. Yeah. So to wrap up the interview, I always love asking the same questions to my guests, because it's so fun to just kind of get real insight into your life. So we'll do a little speed round of some questions here for you. You good?
Awesome.
Okay. What is one thing that you do in the morning to set your tone for the day?
Intentionally move my body. So I'd say intentional movement as opposed to exercise. So just a little different every day. But that honestly makes the biggest difference in my mental clarity and my productivity. And it's just so important to me.
Good for you. That's a great. Do you drink coffee, and what is your coffee order?
Yes, I love coffee. It is probably my favorite part of the morning, but I'm really boring. So in the morning, I just drink black coffee, and that's sort of my coffee order. I know that they say like you're a psychopath or something if you do that. I promise I'm not. And then in the afternoon, which doesn't happen all the time, but usually I would go for more of a cold brew with a little almond milk.
Oh, yum. That sounds good. What is something that you have in your purse day to day when you're out and about, or something when you're traveling, when we can travel, that you just can't live without?
Well, I was going to say now hand sanitizer. That's not always
a massive pump of hand sanitizer.
Right. Well, maybe we'll be sticking with that for a while.
Yes.
But I would say probably some sort of a bar, especially when I'm traveling. I have a few favorite like clean bars that I keep with me, just because if you're prepared, then when your blood sugar drops, you can do something about it.
And we're not all getting hangry and road raging and
right. And when we're traveling, we want to enjoy ourselves. So
I love that. Okay, so this is my favorite question to ask you. What is your favorite junk food?
I know, everyone's like, what is she gonna say?
What is she gonna say? And because if you say that you like to eat this, then everyone's gonna be like, well, it must not be that bad then. Like, she's eating it, so we'll all justify it to ourselves.
Yeah, gosh, it's so hard. I mean, I feel like I just want to say pizza, because I just love a good piece of pizza. And if you get, a really good quality one, it really isn't that much junk food, but it's definitely not something that I eat very often.
So good. I think pizza might be my last supper meal. Like, if I had to pick my final meal in life, it would all revolve around pizza for sure.
That's solid.
Right?
Yes.
What was your very first or most memorable concert that you've attended?
So this is an interesting fun fact. My parents are classical musicians. So I actually kind of grew up at concerts, obviously classical music concerts, but they also got to play with some really incredible people like James Taylor and Art Garfunkel. So I would be like at the dress rehearsals as a kid, but totally not appreciating what was in front of me, probably to the extent.
Totally.
But I remember that when I finally was able to go to a concert by myself, with a friend,
Yes.
It was Jessica Simpson, and I remember having the time of my life.
That is epic. That is the first time I've heard Jessica Simpson as the answer.
Right? Well, maybe she'll listen to this and be like, okay, I do have a fan out there.
Yeah, well, they're out there, Jessica. They are out there. Here we are. I had a few of her albums. I'm just gonna go ahead.
She has a great voice. I feel like very underrated.
Totally. Yeah, I'm with you. See, I knew we'd be friends immediately. That's how we connected on the set, and here we are bonding over Jessica.
Totally.
What is one thing that you absolutely love to do in your free time?
I think I just go to cooking. I know it's technically part of my job as well, but the kitchen is my happy place. And if I'm not cooking for, recipe development or something, I'm just cooking because I love it.
Oh, I love that. What is your favorite travel destination or place that you're most looking forward to going once travel becomes a little more available again?
Well, I think I would go with Rome. I've been lucky enough to go there twice, and it's just the most magical city. And it's so funny. I have a pretty bad sense of direction. I get lost in my own neighborhood kind of thing. But weirdly enough, I know my way around Rome. I did not my husband and I went there not this past summer, but a year before. And I got us around, and he was like, what is happening right now? This city speaks to you.
Yes. I'm like, you're just connected there. It's like, you're just a part of them.
Right. So that would probably be my.
That sounds amazing. What would your perfect day look like if there was no rules and no schedule and you could just have your day be? Like, what would Mel do?
I would be present and unplug. For some reason, when I'm unplugged from technology and responding to things, I just feel simple and grounded. So a day that I could be outside, preferably in the 50s or 60s, because I love fall-ish kind of weather.
I'll make sure to only invite you to our city when it's July or August. Those will maybe be the only 2 months that you'll survive up here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just kidding. It's not too bad for most of the year, but it's really cold. Yeah.
It's funny. I miss the cold weather. So, we can go below 50. But yeah, outside, some good food, and then just honestly ending the day on the couch with my husband watching some TV. We're pretty simple homebodies.
I love it. I love it. That sounds like an absolutely perfect day. Well, this has been delightful. I am so happy that we have reconnected. And I really appreciate the way that you are just bringing such honest, easy, simple information, but making it just a part of day-to-day life. And I just think that that is so beautiful. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.
This show would not be possible without you, my incredible listeners. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to Celebrating Simple Life on Apple Podcasts, or download and listen on Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you choose to listen. If you really want to make my day, leave a review. These reviews, ratings, and sharing screenshots of podcast episodes that were engaging for you on your Instagram stories, and tagging friends that you think should hear the episode too, really helps the podcast grow. It makes me so happy that I often select reviews to read on the show, and if yours is chosen, you will receive a special gift from me. Thank you for being a part of my mission to connect stories of business and life. Cheers to Celebrating Simple Life.